Hello, happy Friday, and welcome to your weekly roundup from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here. Hello to everybody who's in the chat. Hello to everyone who's watching us on X and to everyone who's watching us on Facebook. Welcome. Happy Friday. I hope you had a good week. We've got a lot to talk about from the news and true crime this week. So I'm glad that you're joining us. I want to give a special hello to some of the people who are already in the chat. Jude Evans and Maureen from Monterey, Alicia, Donna D. I'm seeing, by the way, Best Nancy gets the award for the day for changing her, what is it, little emoticon or whatever it is to the Dodgers logo. Go Dodgers, says Best Nancy. Absolutely right. They're playing tonight. First game of the World Series. We're going to get this show done before that, and you have plenty of time to watch it. So, for those of you who are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You're going to love this. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I left there to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney, and this is Courtroom Confidential, where we do our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom. And this is your weekly roundup, which is a recap of all things true crime this week. So before we get started, let me give a special thank you to Arizona Gal for the super chat. Josh and Mods, you rock. That's the post. That's it, period. Thank you so much, Arizona Gal. Curious Kim, for becoming a YouTube member. Welcome aboard. Appreciate it. I think you're going to enjoy it. As always, take a moment right now, one quick second to hit like on this video. Let's let YouTube know that we're here. Subscribe if you haven't already to this channel, and please share this with anybody that you think might enjoy it. But until then, let's go ahead and get rolling. Breaking news, an Irish firefighter is found guilty by a Boston jury after standing trial for a second time. What was the difference maker this time around? Plus, a wide, sweeping federal indictment of NBA stars and New York mobsters as part of a years-long investigation into illegal gambling. And a wealthy Wall Street financier asks a judge to set him free pending his trial for disturbing acts of sexual brutality. All this and more this week on Courtroom Confidential. As you can tell, a lot for us to dive into this week. As always, we are honored you have chosen us to bring you these updates. I am your host, Joshua Ritter, an award-winning Los Angeles prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney with 20 years experience navigating the criminal justice system, bringing you my unique insights from both sides of the courtroom. Today is Friday, October 24th, 2025, and this is your Courtroom Confidential weekly roundup. Let's jump in. A Boston jury found Dublin firefighter Terence Crosbie guilty of raping a woman in Boston during last year's St. Patrick's Day celebrations. This was the second trial in the case after a previous jury was unable to reach a verdict. Prosecutors alleged the unnamed woman met Crosbie's roommate during a night out and went with him to the Omni Parker Hotel, where they had consensual sex. She told police she later fell asleep and woke up to Crosbie assaulting her. After the incident, she left the hotel and reported the incident at a Massachusetts General Hospital. DNA from two men was found after an assault examination, but experts could not conclusively link it to Crosbie. Nothing that includes or matches Mr. Crosbie, defense attorney Daniel Riley told jurors during his closing argument. Despite this, they want you to believe it was him because who else could it be? But their own witness says they cannot say it came from Mr. Crosbie. Prosecutor Aaron Murphy countered that the woman's immediate report of the assault and consistent statements supported her credibility. Quote, she had no reason to leave a hotel room in the middle of the night and immediately disclose to a friend because she got raped, then go to a hospital and be interviewed by police. She had no reason to do it, and drinking alcohol didn't make her do it. The victim told police she woke up to Crosbie sexually assaulting her, and after she told him to stop, she claimed Crosbie said, "This guy is sleeping. I know you want this," according to court documents. Crosbie, who traveled to Boston with fellow members of the Dublin Fire Brigade, allegedly tried to flee after being questioned by police, booking a flight home that same night, days before his scheduled departure date. State police stopped the plane on the tarmac before takeoff and removed him from the flight. He is due to be sentenced on Thursday, October 30th. What's happening here? I got to say, right off, these types of cases are the most difficult, I think, hands down. And I think most criminal defense attorneys, criminal prosecutors would agree with me. On both sides, they are the most difficult to handle for many, many reasons. The delicate nature of them, first and foremost. But aside from that, you've got, first of all, victims who are always going to have trouble testifying to these types of things. They're testifying to some of the most embarrassing and difficult moments in their lives, and there's always the risk of re-victimizing them, putting them through the trauma for no reason if you're not able to secure a conviction from the prosecutor's perspective. Then it's a he said, she said. Now you've got a situation where a woman is claiming something happened to her, and the person who's responsible is saying, no, not true. No eyewitnesses, no surveillance video, nothing catching the quote unquote crime on tape. It's just one person's word against another. And then in a situation like this, you're dealing with poor memory, you're dealing with intoxication issues, and a lack of forensic evidence. I mean, it is incredible. And I think that might have been one of the convincing points to jurors in this case, that she immediately went to a hospital to get examined. And yet still, it doesn't come back with conclusive forensic DNA evidence in this case. That is why it is so rare to see these types of cases, to see cases involving one victim. Usually when you see a case involving this type of crime, sexual assault, serious sexual assault, it's more than one victim, because they know that it's difficult for jurors to believe one person's word against another, but it's much more easy when it's two people or three people or more. Then it starts becoming less like, well, anything could have happened, and much more like, well, what else could have happened? And from the defense perspective, these are difficult cases. Again, it's a he said, she said. It comes down to a credibility call. Who are the jurors going to believe? Your client or the person on the stand who's incredibly emotional, talking about something horrible and traumatic that she went through? Again, no eyewitnesses. That's a difficult thing for the prosecution. It's also a difficult thing for the defense. They don't have anybody to call to say this didn't happen. I was with this person. He's got an alibi. And the DNA in this case, again, I think was probably the strongest argument for the defense, but it didn't carry the day. Now, one more thing I want to talk to about this case before we get into what may have been the difference maker in it. And that was the fact that Crosbie decided to testify himself. You can hear from defense attorneys all day long. It's like rule number one: keep your client's mouth shut. Don't ever have them testify. It is incredible to go through the crucible of cross-examination. And I don't care how good you are, how good of a speaker you are, how extemporaneous you are, how smart you are, how prepared you are, how innocent you are. It's difficult to go through cross-examination. But in certain rare circumstances, it might become necessary. And I think this was it. Now, it didn't turn out the way that Crosbie had hoped, but I still think it was a chance that he had to take, because he needed to explain what in fact took place in that room according to his position and his perspective. But what was the difference maker here? It probably was something you did not even see happen during trial. And by that I mean this case was probably won or lost by the swearing in of that jury. Many times in these cases, when you see them hung and they come back and they're able to secure a conviction, that has much more to do with jury selection than anything else. I firmly believe that. Being able to find the right jurors who won't be bothered by certain details that the defense might be able to exploit, may have been the difference maker in this case. Because honestly, I don't know how the evidence changed all that much. In fact, if it did change, it probably changed in favor of the defense. In my view, it came down to jury selection, something that is rarely given as enough attention as it deserves. But what do you guys think? What do you think was the difference maker this time around? Please let us know in the comments. Bai says some of that testimony was unbearably embarrassing, in my opinion. But I believed her. Very interesting. Annalie Finch, thank you so much for the super chat. Always appreciate you and your generosity and showing up every time. And to Kristen James, thank you so much for becoming a brand new YouTube member. Appreciate you. More than 30 people across 11 states were arrested in a federal investigation into gambling and sports rigging operations tied to multiple organized crime families. At a press conference in Brooklyn, FBI Director Kash Patel called it a historic arrest across a wide sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Cosa Nostra. Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat, and former NBA player Damon Jones were among those taken into custody Thursday. The arrests stem from two major fraud-related cases, one involving an insider sports betting conspiracy and another centered around rigged poker games. In the first case, dubbed Operation Nothing But Bet, prosecutors allege 6 defendants participated in an insider sports betting scheme that exploited confidential information about basketball players and teams. Rozier was charged in this indictment. U.S. Attorney Joseph Nasella Jr. called that alleged conspiracy one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States. In the second case, dubbed Operation Royal Flush, prosecutors accused 31 defendants of a plot to rig underground poker games. The suspects allegedly used high-tech cheating gadgets to steal millions of dollars from games backed by 4 of the 5 families that have long ruled organized crime in the New York area. Officials say key roles were played by members of the notorious Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families, as well as defendants who with nicknames like The Wrestler, Juice, Big Bruce, and Pookie. The high-tech equipment included poker chip trays that secretly read cards with hidden cameras, special contact lenses that can read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that can read cards facing down. Billups was charged in this indictment along with Damon Jones. Quote, "Your winning streak has ended," Narcella said at the news conference, addressing the defendants in the Royal Flush case. "Your luck has run out. Violating the law is a losing proposition, and you can bet on that." What's happening here? Well, the poker case is fascinating, and it's intriguing, and it's kind of fun, and it almost involves spy tech, and I can understand why everybody is getting all juiced about it. You've got this complex scheme where they would essentially lure in whales, people with a lot of money, but people who wanted to play with celebrities, and they'd say, "Hey, you get to play with all these NBA stars at this secret, very cool, exclusive, behind the velvet rope game, but you just got to bring a lot of money to play." And they're playing with Hall of Famers, and it's cool, and I'm sure that there's cigars and women and alcohol and everything that they makes this the kind of lifestyle they're hoping for. And in the meantime, they're just losing tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to even in one case over $1 million in these games. That's interesting. It's also fascinating that we're still dealing with these notorious crime families, La Cosa Nostra. I mean, I thought we had left that back in the 70s. Still dealing with it today. But the NBA cheating case, the tossing of games and the betting on games, I think is going to have far further reaching ramifications. You're talking about the integrity of the game itself. When you're talking about a player, and this is what they're essentially saying took place, they're saying that players would either themselves take themselves out of a game or let bettors know when other players were not going to play or take themselves out of a game. And they could make bets based upon that. You and I, the casual viewer, the casual fan of a game, if we wanted to bet, we're probably betting on who wins, who loses. Maybe it's more sophisticated. We're betting on the over-under in points. Maybe there's other things that we can get a little bit more into. But when you're betting on one specific player's minutes or points in that particular game, the over-under on that, you're getting deep into the weeds as far as sports gambling goes. And this is what they were able to affect. And the interesting thing about this is where the players have the most ability to affect the outcome. Because when you've got a player who says, by the way, I'm going to remove myself from the game by the middle of the third quarter. Therefore, my points are going to drop. My minutes are going to drop, and I'm going to be way under what the over-under is on my points. Bet a lot of money on that. I'm going to make sure it happens. Also, a thing that's not going to raise all that many eyebrows. Players get hurt all the time. They remove themselves from games all the time. They say, hey, I'm injured. I can't play. Nobody questions that. But then all of a sudden, Vegas starts to see an uptick in bets on that particular type of bet. That becomes a problem because now we're just talking about not just a few $100,000 in a poker game. We're talking about millions upon millions of dollars through Vegas and how that's being affected and whether or not anyone can trust the integrity of the game again. One last point on this case. It is fascinating to me, and I don't even know if I have an answer to it, as to why these players got involved in this. Even from the indictment, what we're able to read, what were they able to gain? A few $1,000 here or there? They're making millions of dollars in their contracts. Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer. He coaches, he's the head coach of a team. What does he need these few extra tens of thousands of dollars? Now, I get it. Everybody's got bills. Everybody's got a lifestyle they have to support. But I just can't imagine risking your entire reputation for the kind of money that maybe it's a big deal to you or I, but it's not a big deal to these guys. But it could end up risking the rest of their career, the reputation, maybe even their own freedom. But what do you guys think? Do you think this could change the NBA? Please let us know in the comments. And Potter, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you showing up and being so generous. Best Nancy, there you are. Go Dodgers. Absolutely appreciate that, Best Nancy. And Teresa Clay gifted one Courtroom Confidential membership. Appreciate you, Teresa, and appreciate you being a part of the Courtroom Confidential crew. Former New York financier Howard Rubin has been ordered to stay behind bars even after offering a whopping $50 million bond package. A Brooklyn federal judge ruled Monday that the proposed bond isn't enough to guarantee Rubin won't flee. The 70-year-old former Wall Street executive is facing sex trafficking charges along with his personal assistant, Jennifer Powers. Rubin appeared in court wearing a tan jail uniform and glasses. He blew a kiss to his wife, Mary Henry, as he was led out of the courtroom. Henry, who is estranged from Rubin but still supports him, wrote a letter to the judge calling him a caring husband and father. Their daughter, Anna Lee, also sent a letter describing her father as a devoted grandfather who goes, quote, above and beyond for his grandkids. Prosecutors, however, said Rubin remains a danger to the community and could easily flee. They also told the court they still don't know the full extent of his wealth, pointing to at least one $74 million account in the Cayman Islands. Rubin's lawyer argued that his client is in poor health, having suffered a stroke in July, and that the alleged conduct is old. He said the defense plans to argue the case involves private sexual activity involving adults. But prosecutors dismissed those arguments, insisting Rubin at times flouted family obligations to pursue BDSM sex with women, and his family ties didn't stop his alleged sex trafficking. Rubin and Powers are both charged in the alleged decade-long scheme, accused of luring scores of women to New York, where Rubin allegedly tormented them inside his penthouse-turned BDSM dungeon. What's happening here? When we're talking about bond, it's always important to understand what that is about. Bond isn't to punish. Bond isn't to set an example. Bond is to make sure that two things happen. One, that person returns to court. In other words, is that person a flight risk? Or what can we do to somehow make sure we compel that person properly enough to be back at court? That's question number one. Question number two, are they a danger to the public? These are the only concerns of the judge. What can I do to make sure this person comes back to court? And putting that aside, is this person a further danger to the public? That's what has to be considered. So what are we addressing when those concerns cannot be properly addressed with a $50 million bond? Well, let me say this first of all. What we're dealing with in this case is sick stuff. I'm about to read you some text messages, and they're graphic, just as a warning. If you've got little ones listening in, maybe turn it down for a moment. But in one text exchange with the defendant and his assistant, this is all alleged, she says rather to him, "I can only imagine what you did to her," speaking about one of the victims on that cross. The cross was apparently one of his torture devices in his dungeon. "Did you shock her?" And then she uses the expletive for a woman's privates. And then he complains about the electronic device not being strong enough. He then says that she hates it, but she's so desperate. We've got to make her cry. Quote, "I don't care if she screams," along with a laughing face emoji. "This is going to be fun." Obviously, this person presents a danger to the public, or had at one point. And there's an argument to be made. A person with that kind of money could maybe easily flee more than others, could make the arrangements, could find someplace to live in another country. I'm asking you, though, to consider this for the moment. I'm wondering if this case would have been decided differently 10 years ago, as far as bond goes. Are we dealing with the Epstein effect here? Are we starting to understand, finally, this dark, gruesome subculture and underbelly of the wealthy elite, and how they've acted with impunity for decades, getting away with things, and finally, the justice system is starting to catch up with that? We saw similar type of refusal to allow someone to get out on bail when it came to Sean Diddy Combs. Again, allegations of reckless behavior, acting with impunity, acting like a person who's untouchable, disgusting behavior, plenty of money, plenty of power, willing to offer essentially their entire wealth to the government to just let them out pending trial. And the judge said no. And that's what we're seeing here. And I'm wondering if this is a new sea change in the way that these cases are handled and viewed. And I'll say this as well. I don't think this is the end when it comes to this case. I can't imagine this person operating alone. I can't imagine. Now, I understand he's got an assistant, but I can't imagine him taking part in this type of deviant subculture behavior and not sharing that with others, having others involved with him, people to coordinate with, being part of some dark subculture. I think this might be the tip of the iceberg, and I think we might be hearing about others. But what do you guys think? Do you think that we should brace ourselves for more indictments? Please let us know in the comments. Cat Flap Carnage says, "I definitely think this whole subculture has become unacceptable, and we are seeing that now. I couldn't agree with you more." Jude Evans, thank you so much for the gift of a membership. Appreciate that, Jude Evans. Always good to see you. And Granny Detective says, "Things won't change until these entitled people are finally put in prison where they belong." Amen to that, Granny Detective. Hey, everybody. As you can tell, it's been a very busy week. But before I get into the other cases making headlines, I just wanted to take a moment to ask you a very small favor. And that is, if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel now. We want to be able to provide you with the highest quality content that we can. And the best way that we can do that is through your support. All right. Also making headlines. Attorneys for the man responsible for the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students are fighting a request to make him pay more restitution to the families of 2 murder victims. Bryan Kohberger pled guilty in July to killing Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in a November 2022 stabbing at an off-campus home in Moscow. Kohberger's plea deal spared him a possible death sentence, but gave him 4 life sentences without parole, plus another 10 years for burglary. Additionally, he agreed to pay about $29,000 in restitution between the families of victims of Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin and reimbursement of the state's crimes victims compensation fund. Kohberger also was ordered to pay $270,000 in fines, bringing his total to about $300,000. Last month, however, prosecutors asked the court to add a combined $27,330 to cover expenses for the Gonzalez and Mogan families. Kohberger's defense team says those costs are related to travel and accommodations and argues the filing came too late, more than 60 days after sentencing. Defense attorneys told the court that Kohberger has no ability to pay additional restitution now or in the future because of his sentence. They also noted that the Gonzalez's and Mogan's mother, Karen Laramie, have received outside financial help, including more than $200,000 through online fundraisers and support from the state's Victims' Compensation Fund. A virtual hearing on the restitution dispute is set for November 5th. Attorneys for the man accused of fatally shooting the United Healthcare CEO last year are accusing the Trump administration of turning their client into a pawn for political purposes and say public comments by the president have jeopardized his right to a fair trial. Luigi Mangione is accused of shooting and killing Brian Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel in December of 2024. He has pled not guilty to federal and state charges. In a filing last Friday, the defense asked a federal judge to either dismiss the indictment or remove the death penalty from consideration. Quote, "The significance of these prejudicial statements is that they have life or death consequences for Mr. Mangione." Defense attorneys argued that Donald Trump's comments in interviews and on social media calling Mangione, quote, "a pure assassin," and reposts by Justice Department officials have tainted the potential jury pool. Federal prosecutors countered, saying Trump's statements shouldn't count as government interference because they came from someone not associated with this matter. The defense disputes that, calling Trump's influence over the DOJ unprecedented. Quote, "The departure from the longstanding principle of prosecutorial independence has created a blurred and constitutionally troubling line between the Department of Justice and the executive office of the president." Prosecutors also argued that since no trial date has been set, there will be time for public attention to fade. But the defense insists the harm has already been done. Meanwhile, Mangione remains in custody in Brooklyn. His Pennsylvania case, where he faces separate gun charges, is on hold. Federal officials previously denied a request by Pennsylvania prosecutors to allow Mangione to be transported to make in-person court appearances, and Mangione has refused to appear remotely. A judge there has given his attorneys 2 weeks to formally request an in-person hearing or reconsider appearing remotely. The criminal case against a former NFL quarterback accused of attacking a truck driver in Indiana will be televised. Fox Sports analyst Mark Sanchez faces multiple charges, including felony battery stemming from an October 4th incident that left him stabbed several times. Prosecutors say Sanchez, who was in Indianapolis to call the Raiders-Colts game for Fox, was inebriated when he assaulted 69-year-old truck driver Perry Toll. Sanchez was stabbed in the upper right torso. Toll who also suffered significant injuries, including lacerations to his cheek and jaw, was not charged and claimed self-defense. Judge James Osborne has approved cameras in the courtroom for the criminal case, reversing an earlier decision by Judge Jennifer Harrison. At Wednesday's hearing, Sanchez was excused from court as he continues to recover from injuries he sustained in the altercation. The judge set a trial date for December 11th, with the next court hearing being November 20th. Sanchez remains free on bond and has been permitted by the court to return to his home in California. Toll has filed a separate lawsuit against Sanchez and Fox, which is still in its early stages. Before we get into the cases for the week, I just wanted to share with you a story that happened to me at CrimeCon this year. If you're a follower of this channel, you already know, but I lost temporarily my passport. I've got it back now. Thank you very much. But while it was gone, it is such an unnerving feeling to know that your personal information could be in the hands of another person. But what brought me a little peace of mind was knowing that I had identity theft insurance through Aura, our first ever sponsor. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your information and why your inbox is full of junk, this is why. Data brokers collect and sell your information without your permission, and they make billions doing it. And that is why we are proud to partner with Aura. Aura does the hard work for you. They scrub your information from the internet, protecting it from those shady sites, and making sure that your information is kept safe. But it's more than just data removal. It's also about digital security. That's why I felt such comfort even when my passport was lost. You get dark web alerts, bank fraud monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all in one app. Try Aura today, free for 14 days at aura.com/courtroomconfidential. It's free to try, it protects you, and it helps support the show. Please check it out. The Arizona father charged in his 2-year-old daughter's 2024 hot car death pled guilty to second-degree murder and intentional child abuse. Christopher Shouttes, age 38, initially rejected an earlier plea deal that carried a 10 to 25-year sentence. Under his new agreement with Pima County prosecutors, he faces 20 to 30 years in prison to be served consecutively and without parole. Scholtes left the toddler in his vehicle for hours, telling detectives he did not want to wake her when he went inside the family home. Prosecutors say Scholtes searched for pornography on his PlayStation during that time. He acknowledged knowing the vehicle's engine would automatically shut off after running for about 30 minutes. Temperatures inside the vehicle reached 109 degrees by the time authorities reached the child, according to her autopsy report. His other two children, then 5 and 9, told police Scholtes would often leave them alone in a vehicle while he played his game or put his food away, according to court documents. I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? We've lost her. She was perfect. Read a text message to Scholtes from his wife, Erica, who was not present at the plea hearing. Sentencing is set for November 21st. The 29-year-old Florida man accused of starting a fire that eventually turned into the deadly Palisades fire pled not guilty Thursday in a Los Angeles courtroom. Jonathan Rinderknecht, a former resident of the Pacific Palisades, was arrested earlier this month and identified as the prime suspect responsible for starting the Palisades fire in January. Prosecutors allege that Rinderknecht, who was working as an Uber driver at the time, intentionally started the Lockman fire along a hiking trail in the Palisades area just after midnight on New Year's Day. The fire reignited days later in high winds and dry conditions and came to be known as the Palisades Fire. The deadly blaze burned for several weeks, was responsible for at least 12 deaths, displaced tens of thousands of people, and destroyed hundreds of homes and businesses. He's facing federal charges for destruction of property by means of fire, arson, and setting timber on fire. During his first court appearance in Los Angeles Thursday, Rinderknecht's attorney, Stephen Haney, tried to argue against continued detention. Haney said his client has no history of mental health issues or drug use and has no prior criminal record, and that he's charged with a fire that occurred 7 days after the fire he's accused of starting. U.S. Magistrate Judge Rosella A. Oliver decided to continue the prior judge's order to remain in custody. Just as the arraignment was about to begin, Rinderknecht interrupted and said, quote, "Can I actually say something about detainment?" Rinderknecht's attorney tried to stop him, then asked the judge for a break, which they took. Rinderknecht came back to the courtroom and entered a plea of not guilty. Rinderknecht is due to appear in court again on November 12th before going to trial on December 16th. Trial is expected to last 7 to 10 days. If convicted, he would face a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years in prison and a statutory maximum sentence of 45 years behind bars. A newly surfaced video shows two of the thieves behind the $102 million jewel heist at the Louvre exiting that crime scene on a mobile cherry picker before speeding off on motorbikes. French investigators confirmed that they're reviewing the video, which was captured by museum security staff. The footage shows the suspects descending from the museum's Apollo gallery as alarms blare in the background. One is seen wearing a motorcycle helmet, the other a yellow construction vest and mask, before both flee on a waiting motorcycle. The entire burglary lasted just 7 minutes, investigators said. During her testimony before France's Senate Culture Committee on Wednesday, Laurence Descartes, the president and director of the Louvre, said the only camera installed outside the Apollo Gallery was facing west and did not cover the window where the thieves used power tools to break in and exit. Decars told France's Senate Culture Committee that while all alarms and cameras function properly, the museum's perimeter security has long been a weakness due to underinvestment. Police say the thieves escaped with 8 pieces of jewelry, including 2 tiaras from the collections of Queen Marie Amélie and Queen Hortense, one made of 212 pearls and nearly 2,000 diamonds, the other featuring sapphires and over 1,000 diamonds. While the manhunt for the 4 main perpetrators continues, authorities are analyzing DNA found inside a helmet and glove left behind. Decars, who offered her resignation following the heists, said it was rejected. Quote, "This tragedy deeply shocked museum staff, fellow citizens, and admirers of the Louvre around the world," said Decars, reading an opening statement. "This is an immense wound that has been inflicted on us." Officials say evidence points to organized crime, though investigators haven't ruled out the possibility of an inside job. Before we get to what's coming up next week, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this growing community. But I want to give a special shout out to Jocelyn Witten for your kind words on Spotify, and to our CC crew members, Sarah Fitzdub and Dory France 4937 for your comments on YouTube. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Please keep those reviews coming. We appreciate your help in spreading the word about Courtroom Confidential. On the docket for next week, Bianca Ellis, the Ohio woman convicted of fatally stabbing 3-year-old Julian Wood outside a grocery store, faces sentencing Monday, October 27th. Tyler McCain, the California man accused of murdering his wife, Nikki Saley McCain, who has been missing since May of 2024, will be back in court Monday, October 27th for a review hearing. Henry Tenon, the confessed gunman allegedly hired by Shanna Gardner in the murder-for-hire shooting death of her ex-husband Jared Bridegan, will be back in Florida court on Tuesday, October 28th for a status hearing. Larry Miliete, the California man accused of killing his wife Maya, who remains missing more than 4 years after vanishing from her home, will be in court Tuesday, October 28th for a motions hearing. Gregory Moore, a former divorce attorney accused of killing his client Eliza Sherman in 2013, has a hearing on Wednesday, October 29th. Tyler Robinson, the Utah man accused of shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, will be in court on Thursday, October 30th. And Kentucky woman Kimberly Sullivan, who is charged in connection with the alleged 20-year-old confinement and abuse of her stepson, is scheduled to appear in court Friday, October 31st for a hearing. And finally, please join us tomorrow for our special question and answer series, Sunday Fun Day. All are invited to leave us a voice message at thecourtroomconfidential.com, which I will answer live Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can find the live stream on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And that is it for us this week, folks. I am your host, Josh Ritter. You can find us on social media at CR Confidential on X, at The Courtroom Confidential on Instagram, or at thecourtroomconfidential.com. Thank you again for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Courtroom Confidential. All right, everybody. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. Let me give some more thank yous to Fala Dammit for gifting 5 Courtroom Confidential memberships. I appreciate you, Fala. Some announcements. 1, stay tuned tomorrow, Saturday, for our October members only live. If you are in our classified and above membership level, we are going to be having a live stream tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. It's going to be fun. It's going to have all of the stuff that you look forward to at all of these members only lives, including a conversation about all of our new merch, which is also stuff like this shirt. Did you guys even notice? Did you even notice my new shirt? Dodgers defense, says therapist, you know. I like that. Anything dueling with dollars. 7th inning slate, says therapist, you know. Therapist, you know, has always got the great color ideas. Again, I think we should do another contest to name one of these things, and I'm going to propose that. Thank you. Love you all. Love being back to beginning for me, says Simone B. Good to hear from you. Also on Sunday, membership has its privileges, says Alicia K. Mail. Yes, tomorrow. That's what's happening tomorrow. Sunday Fun Day is back. We know it was gone, but it's back. 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. This Sunday, I'm going to be answering all of your true crime related questions that you've left us throughout the week. So be there. Don't miss it. Granny Detective says Blue Jay Blue. Oh, Granny Detective. We were doing so good. Maureen from Monterey says Thrill on Blueberry Hill. Midnight, says T. Suze. I like that. Midnight's not horrible. All right. Also on Monday, Blue Jays Champs. Nice color. Oh, KLB. Oh, boy. We're going to be having troubles on this channel. Also on Monday, we will have our true crime docket. So we like to give you on Friday, let you know what happened for the week. And then on Monday, we let you know what to look forward to on the week. So those are the cap ends for the week, with Wednesday night live in between telling you what's been going on. So join us this Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for the true crime docket. Let me give some final thank yous to everybody. Oh, Blueberry Chill. I like that name. Little Miss Red Velvet. OG says Plum State Blue. Oops. What did I do here? Having technical issues right at the very end. Anyhow, good to see all of you. Thank you all for stopping by. Kathy says it's World Series champ Dodgers Blue. On that perfect note, I want to thank Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, and Therapist, you know, for being our mods and always making us all feel warm and cozy. And to Kaylin for doing all of the hard work. Wasn't Kaylin's incredible today with just the graphics and the B-roll and everything else being so seamless? And to Tiffany, as always, thank you for being the best thing that ever happened to me. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow if you're part of our membership. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.